When the New York Knicks look at the 2021-2022 offseason, there's several point guards that come to mind that may be a little bit too expensive given how old they are, maybe how overrated they are, injury prone. But there's one out there in the West that possibly could be had on the cheap that could fulfill the position for Tom Thibodeau in the front office for years to come. High skill, talent, pedigree, everything that we all want for in a Knicks point guard. But guys, before we get started, please hit the likes, subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit that dark notification bell. Welcome to Legion of Knicks. And without any further delay, hit that rock. Now, the point guard in focus is a 24-year-old backup point guard, Jalen Brunson of the Dallas Mavericks, of the Villanova fame, that team that won the championship in 2017, 2018 with him, Eric Pascal, Dante DiVincenzo, my guy, Mikal Bridges, even Amari Spellman, who had a few stints in the NBA. Less of a day, man. Jay Wright has pedigree. Draft Villanova players. This season, as a backup point guard for the Dallas Mavericks, he averaged 12.6 points a game on 52.3% shooting from the field, 40% from three, 79.5% from the stripe, to go with 3.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 0.5 steals on 25 minutes a night, primarily coming off the bench. In the playoffs, he only averaged 8 points, but on 45.5% shooting from the field, 46.2% from three, and 77% from the stripe, with 2.6 rebounds, 1.4 assists, and only 16.3 minutes a night in 7 games off the bench. But in the regular season, the guy's been an absolute beast for the Mavericks, coming off the bench, attacking teams' second units, be able to hold leads for Luka Doncic, allow him rest. And although some people have suggested he can actually play Luka Doncic, allow Luka to play more at the two and still be a do-it-all guard, and have those guys play off of each other back and forth, on and off the ball, they seem to be keen on keeping him off the bench, where he's been electric for the Mavericks. He's been probably their second best player, you can argue, on the team, or second most impactful player, to the point, according to Brian Windhorst of ESPN, I don't know why I did the air quotes, but they said that if Luka's untouchable, so is Jalen Brunson. But we'll get to that later. So here's several positives and negatives on his game. Brunson is an excellent pick and roll scorer, averaging 56.5% in the pick and roll with an effective field goal percentage of 58.4% for the 2020-2021 regular season, generating 1.093 points per possession and ranking in the 92nd percentile. And when you watch him, he has a nasty start and stop gear after lulling defenses asleep. For someone who isn't the quickest or the fastest, he has a high understanding of when to actually utilize that quick twitch, depending on how the defense plays him. The next positive is his perimeter shooting ability. The 40.5% from the three-point line doesn't explain the full story. Although 86% of his three-point shots were assisted this past season, where he shot 40% on all catch and shoots, he also 66.7% on pull-up three-point shots, which, although on only 17.3% frequency, shows an ability to score in a myriad of ways from the perimeter, where he shot above league average from the three-point line except for the top of the key for the 2020-2021 season. And not to digress, but it's not just the perimeter. The guy can also hit in the mid-range as well. He shot 50% from the mid-range, which ranks in the 91st percentile in the league. To say that this guy is just a versatile scorer is an understatement. This dude is a straight killer. The next positive is his ability as a one-on-one attacker, where he's averaging 51.6% on isolation plays, which ranks in the 74th percentile in the NBA. Not only does he know how and when to turn on the burners, but he has a tough spin move that can help him close out space to the basket with the defender on him. For a guy who's only 6'1", he has an excellent understanding of leverage and reading an individual defender's missteps or overcommitment to one side or angle when driving to the cup. And that goes to his next positive, which is free throw draw rate of 24.1%, which is fairly solid compared to the rest of the league. His ability to attack the cup and be able to draw fouls at such a solid rate makes his attacks to the basket worthwhile. He's getting rewarded for his aggressiveness, where he's averaging 80% from 0 to 3 feet from the basket, which is rare for a guard of his size. And right at the rim, he shot 71%, which ranked 92nd in the league. That field goal percentage is rare for a guard his size, and is close to guys like Kawhi Leonard, who shot 74% at the rim this season. That's just plain absurd. His next positive is solid assist-to-turnover ratio of 2.91, which shows his ability to protect the ball. And although some may say he's only averaging 3.5 assists, it's fairly impressive given the fact that he's tasked with scoring and facilitating off the bench in only 25 minutes a night. And his ability to protect the rock while being tasked and attacking team second rotations has helped to elevate the Mavericks to having one of the best benches in the league, which is the next positive. The Mavericks currently rank 7th in the league with regards to bench points per game at 25.9. Without him, you have to rely on slasher Josh Richardson, who can't shoot, power forward Dwight Howard, who finishes right at the rim and is not a shot creator or facilitator in any regards, corner three-point shooter Max Kleber, who can't create, and ancillary guard Trey Burke. Without Brunson, that bench does nada in the West. His ability to draw defenders in on his attacks to the rim and dribble, drive, kick out feeds the assist-dependent three-point shooters on the squad, and also allows him to play in late rotations with Luka Doncic deep in close fourth quarters as both an on-ball and off-ball weapon. Last but not least, Brunson's pedigree and high IQ developed under Jay Wright at Villanova and ultimately, obviously, his father Rick Brunson, former Knick. Jalen Brunson was seen as a leader of that team that consisted of the likes of Dante DiVincenzo, my guy Mikal Bridges, Eric Pascal, and Amari Spellman. Brunson, since his days in Villanova, had always been regarded as having high-level footwork, guile, situational awareness. We could fake a dribble drive handoff, attack the basket, and then kick out to an open shooter based on how the defense plays him. Just high-level work from the kid on a consistent basis. He's a massive controlling pace, has always kept his head up while being able to read defenses. And since his days at Villanova, Jalen had always exhibited a high-level understanding, overstanding the game to overcome his natural deficiencies at size and top-end speed. Now, let's get to some of his deficiencies. He's only started 33% of his career games, his lack of size at 6'1", poor isolation defense, his average defense against the pick and roll, and possible injury as a smaller guard transitioning to the starter role. Now, many of these defensive deficiencies revolve around his lack of size, which was an issue since college. In isolation, he's given up 52.2% from the field and .945 points per possession, which ranks poorly in the NBA. And in the pick and roll, he's given up 47.6% from the field and .945 points per possession. Given how prolific both isolation and the pick and roll is in the NBA, he'll need constant help in guarding against the ball handling the pick and roll. Just imagine a series where Jalen Brunson will have to go against a Trae Young and the times that the team plays drop coverage, waiting for Jalen Brunson to recover on Trae. May not be a pretty sight without hedge help. You also have to think of the precedent of failure of point guards who didn't pan out after converting from a bench player to a starter. Now, you do have success stories, guys like Goran Dragic, who made the transition, but again, there is a precedent where sometimes transitioning over to the starter role just may not fit a certain player, given maybe the situation on the team, the context, the supporting cast, where it may be. Many times it may be factors outside that guy's control, but once you sign on the dotted line to become a starter, a lot of the onus is up on you. Now, if you look at this table, I did a quick comparison of certain factors that I think fit a Tom Thibodeau's profile at guard. This might be more anecdotal than scientific, but when I envision point guards who flourish under Tom Thibodeau, it's typically point guards who are kind of in that combo guard profile, guys who can create and score in multiple ways, can draw contact and get rewarded for being aggressive, going to the cup, excel in the pick and roll, and protect the ball. And so what I did was take the best years from 3 different guards that played under Tibbs, using Derrick Rose's MVP year, one of Jimmy Butler's best years under Tom Thibodeau in Chicago, and even Jeff Teague's year of 2017-2018, where he did play alongside Jimmy Butler, who was traded in Minnesota that year. I looked at the free throw draw rate, pick and roll ball handling offense, field goal percentage at 0 to 3 feet from the basket, isolation field goal percentage, and turnover ratio. And outside of free throw draw rate, Brunson actually blew away these guys in each and every category. In regards to the free throw draw rate, Brunson still only played 25 minutes a night. Does that go up with 35 minutes a night played? Possibly. These factors are not the end-all be-all, but they help bolster the idea that Brunson would be perfect, or at least fit Tom Thibodeau's system if he could work around his size and use his help defense to cover for Brunson's defensive deficiencies. Now, with regards to money, Jalen Brunson is making absolutely nothing. Relatively speaking, he's making more than the average individual. He is a wealthy person in all understanding of the world and what everyone makes. But obviously, compared to the NBA, he's not making much at only $1.8 million a year. He is signed on for one more year. If he's not waived by August 2nd of this year, his contract becomes guaranteed. And trust me, they're going to keep his contract because it's relatively cheap for a guy who's been this productive off the bench. Now, granted, again, Brian Windhorst of ESPN said that Jalen Brunson was untouchable at this past NBA trading deadline and was seen as a foundational piece for the Mavericks. But for this upcoming offseason, the Mavericks have another piece they'll need to resign in order to sustain their playoff hopes after losing to the Clippers, Tim Hardaway Jr., who made roughly $19 million this past season and at 16.6 points a game and 39% from three and 4.3 win shares. Tim Hardaway Jr. was a vital shooting guard for the Mavericks, playing alongside Luka Doncic. Could they possibly offer Tim Hardaway Jr. an extension in a range of $20 million or more per? Yes. And according to Mark Cuban, here's what he stated when asked about Tim Hardaway Jr. THJ turned into an elite shooter. He makes us so much better, said Mark Cuban when asked about the possibility of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s extension this summer. Obviously, we can see him being around for a long time, and I know he wants to stay. But that possibly 80 to 100 million tied up in THJ and the inability to move Kristaps Porzingis, the total cap could balloon past 115 million. Then you have to get to Luka Doncic, who already today, they've said that the extension talks have begun, allegedly. And he's looking at possibly getting a deal of 5 years, 200 million extension by the 2022-2023 season at the very least. So say you sign THJ because of his play this season, where he's kind of outplayed his so-called contract with the team at least, and given the fact that the free agent market, when you look at the two guard positions, is really going to be Oladipo and DeMar DeRozan, THJ has some leverage. And so if Mark Cuban wants to re-sign him, he's definitely going to give him a contract of 20 million at the very least per season. I don't know if they could do a short day deal, long day deal, 20 per season. And then Luka Doncic, who is up to make 201 million for 5 years, as talked about recently, with an extension from the Mavericks. Now you have about 140 to 150 million tied up to the cap, and this is without being able to trade Kristaps Porzingis. Now again, yes, you can sign Jalen Brunson, you have his bird rights, and so you can go over the cap. But if there are other parts of the team that you want to fill up, with free agents that will hurt the cap somehow, would the Mavericks now be more apt to do that versus giving that type of deal to Jalen Brunson? Given the fact you got guys like Terrell Terry, I'm not comparing Jalen Brunson, saying Terrell Terry's Jalen Brunson, but do you go that route? Maybe you take a first rounder and say, hey, we'll take a guy and kind of stash him, develop him, and then try to see what we have in a guy like Terrell Terry to kind of save money, because we need some rim protectors, we need some defenders to help out the second unit, improve our team defense. I don't know. I'm just saying that there is a possibility that Jalen Brunson may be somewhat expendable. They can get some draft picks again. They cannot trade any draft picks until 2025 because of the whole step-in rule, and so they're kind of bereft of young talent coming into the team. But that's definitely a place where the Knicks could come in and attack, and that'll be up to Leon Rose and Brock Aller to see what the best solution is to try to pry a guy like Jalen Brunson and bring him over to the Knicks. Now, people might get mad and say, oh, you send up a first rounder, but think about this. If we're on the path to making the playoffs year in and out, and we have all these picks, a first rounder is probably not going to have that much value for the Knicks. According to Tankathon, we expect to pick 19 and 21 this season, in this offseason, in the draft. And so when you think about those guys, again, guys I do like, guys like Jared Butler, they're still improving and may not be as good as, say, a guy like Jalen Brunson. And for the Knicks, would it be more cost effective to send up a first to get a guy like Jalen Brunson, pay him the 14 to 17 million in an extension, while eschewing or avoiding guys like Dennis Schroeder, who's going to come at 20-something plus after rejecting that $84 million 4-year deal from the Lakers? Guys like Kyle Lowry, who said he wants 50 for 2 years, even though he's up there in age. I believe he's about 35 years of age. He did average 17 and 39% from the three-point line this season, but again, he's up there in age. The Raptors kind of underachieved. May not be worth that amount of money. Lonzo Ball, a guy who's relatively young and very talented, but still unproven as a so-called lead point guard, had the ball taken out of his hands by two different regimes, will cost assets in a sign and trade, and will still come at the very least 20 per. Jalen Brunson might be the more cost-effective move for the Knicks. Give up a first, maybe a young ass. I'm not saying IQ, one of these guys, but maybe give up an asset here and there for a guy like Jalen Brunson to fill up the point guard position for years to come, while the Mavericks are looking at like, look, we're going to be cash strapped. We're going to need some assets. Bring on, give us what you got. We'll let go over Jalen Brunson, develop a Terrell Terry, and develop this draft pick to kind of be that Jalen Brunson type. It may work. I think it's unlikely, but it still could work. But guys, let me know what you think. Do you think that this Jalen Brunson idea is whacked out? Do you like Jalen Brunson? Would you like him on the Knicks? Do you think that he's an underrated player that's just not getting that exposure as a lead point guard for a team? Is there another player out there that you'd rather trade for versus Jalen Brunson? Is there a free agent that you'd rather bring on the team as a point guard rather than Jalen Brunson? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please, before you get out of here, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. This is your boy Gimo KSK of Legion of Knicks. Thank you for joining me and watching this video. Peace, salute, God bless.